Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 169 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I am a speaker and author of the book From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact for you, this past weekend, I was speaking at the Alpha Delta Phi Fraternity Convention, and I got to see the original badge of the fraternity that belonged to their founder. The fraternity was founded in 1832 at Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, as a literary society, and it's considered one of the American great original college fraternities. How cool is it that we can sit here today, 189 years later, and still be talking about fraternity and sorority and how relevant it is today? I wonder what Samuel would think if he was alive today. And I hope that you ask that question about your own organization, your own chapter, and ask yourself, are we truly living out the founder's intentions, values, and vision when they started the organization? If so, then you are on the right track. Today, our guest is Katie Bulmer. She is a small town girl who now lives in the beautiful mountains of Chattanooga, Tennessee. She loves hiking, yoga, making carpool karaoke videos with her two daughters, and cheering on her marathon running husband, also working from home with no makeup and a messy bun. For most of her high school and college days, she was looking for happiness in the arms of boys, Bacardi, and attempts to be beautiful. And oh, by the way, boys again. After the breakup that broke her, she heard the voice of God and he whispered, "Go speak to sorority women. That is what I have designed you to do." And I know what that feeling is like. I know what that voice sounds like. She wrote a blog post that turned into a book. Then that turned into a speaking platform that has launched into a podcast, and that opened up more doors than she ever thought was possible. And the heart behind it is all the same: to be who she needed when she was younger. She also spent 15 years in advertising, so all of this marketing experience gave her a front row seat to the $100 million power of influence that sorority women have over trends today. And she believes it to her bones that sorority girls can change the world, and I wholeheartedly agree. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great intro. You're awesome.
Listen, I'm available. If you want to take me on the road and I can introduce you on stages, I mean, we can work something out, Katie.
Hey, we need to talk. This is good.
So I thought it would be great for our listeners to learn a little bit more about you and where you're from. You chose Georgia Southern University. So why was that particular institution the right choice for you?
So I was young and dumb and didn't know what I was doing, but thankfully I feel like it was all exactly where I needed to be. I grew up in Atlanta, and my best friend in high school wanted to go to Georgia Southern. That's where her sister went. Honestly, I knew nothing about South Georgia, this little town not far from Savannah, but my best friend wanted to go, and she was the person who got me into frat parties. So, I mean, I couldn't go where she was not going. So I found myself at Georgia Southern, and gosh, I mean, that is such a wonderful town and a great school, and has definitely shaped me to be who I am today. So I'm very thankful that it worked out, despite me not knowing what the heck I was doing.
That makes two of us. We had the same identical experience, except I was in the north in New York, and I chose the University of Buffalo because my best friend was going there as well. He ended up failing out of school, so it didn't even matter. But it's so funny to me, the reasons why people choose institutions, and it really has absolutely nothing to do with academics and the things that we really should be concerned with.
Totally.
But instead it's totally random things that bring us there.
Yes. I wish I had a great because I want to be a philosopher, but no.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that question either. So Alpha Delta Pi was your sorority choice, and you've also served as advisor in the past as well. Tell me, what makes Alpha Delta Pi so special?
Well, it's so funny because, again, this was not my doing. I actually did not even go through recruitment, which is so cool because, we're having this conversation now. I'm doing what I'm doing now, traveling to speak to sororities, and was the girl who went to college, didn't go through recruitment, didn't even know what those letters on those Greek houses meant. I was like, E, R, like pi, like what, T. So I actually was a snap bid, which isn't even really common practice. Maybe it is, I don't know, in some schools, but essentially they were low on quota. I knew some girls from history class that were 80 pies. I guess they liked me, I liked them, and they show up on my front door with, all I remember is a bunch of big hair and balloons and these letters I didn't understand, and they're chanting something. And they said, would you be part of our sorority? And I told them no. I told them no, but my friend, who would later become my big sister, came back to my apartment later that night and convinced me. And I'm so glad she did, because it was truly, what I say, belonging to something bigger than myself. And my first opportunity to be part of that. My parents were divorced. I wasn't really involved in sports. We moved a lot. And here I was, a part of 125 women who had this common core values and these creeds and these mottos. And, it all meant something so beautiful to me. And I just fell in love, did my 4 years. But after that, honestly, was kind of like, I thought I was done. And several years later, ended up becoming an advisor. And then I feel like it lifted the veil on my eyes about what sorority even means so much more. I just had a little more life under my belt. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like these women, before there was Google, before there was any kind of book on what a sorority even means, they lit a candle and got down on paper what this could look like. Women honoring each other and fighting for each other, not letting each other settle for status quo. And they wrote down, bylaws and all these characteristics. And it's just amazing to me. And now, along with a lot of other things, I'm on this mission to help women understand how beautiful sisterhood can be.
Wow, that's an incredible, incredible story. I mean, a couple of lessons that I take from that is that, number one, somebody might be the perfect candidate for your organization. They might say no. And
Yeah.
so, maybe it's just bad timing. Maybe you need to come back a semester later when maybe their college schedule is easier and they don't have as much classes or something like that. So, I think if we've identified the right person, to not just give up, but instead to figure out a way to work together. I think that's, one of the things that I think about when you tell your story. And, the other thing that I think about too is that same thing for me. I think until I was an alumnus and started volunteering for the fraternity and working for 5 chapters in the Northeast, just as an advisor, not even getting paid. That's really what made me appreciate what the organization is really all about and how big the organization is and how powerful that network is. I think as an undergraduate, you just get pigeonholed into your chapter and you're in this bubble, and maybe that bubble is Atlanta, but you don't really know what's going on outside the bubble. And so once you get that exposure, then you're like, oh my God, I really didn't even realize how powerful this organization can be.
Yes, totally. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, you do have the 15 years of advertising experience. So talk to us a little bit more about what you learned about the power that sorority women have over trends today.
Well, I'm so glad you asked. And this gets me all fired up. All right. So yes, I worked for 15 years in marketing and advertising and had this aha moment in 2014 with a brand of t-shirts a lot of Greek men and women are wearing on the other side of these earbuds, I'm sure. And that is Comfort Colors t-shirts. So in 2014, I was selling bulk orders of t-shirts and not even one time had ever heard the name Comfort Colors. So, but people start asking for them, like, hey, I want to buy an order of Comfort Colors t-shirts. And I'm like, okay, it must be a new company. I asked my boss, he's like, Comfort Colors has been around since the 70s. Okay, well, why does everyone want them all of a sudden? But I'm filling the orders, going through the motions, why? Okay, again, someone else wants Comfort Colors. They're out of stock. We're out of stock in this color. Every time someone wanted Comfort Colors, I had to make them give me 3 color options, like first, second, and third choice, because there was guaranteed there was some kind of stock shortages. Anyway, I come to learn that year, 2014, that their CEO was dying. They did not launch a single new product. They did not have a celebrity endorsement, no new marketing campaign. They were just content to mind their little business. Yet they skyrocketed from a $10 million company to a $100 million company so fast that they ended up selling to the largest t-shirt distributor on the planet, Gildan, which you probably have a Gildan t-shirt in your drawer. Mm-hmm. And that January, we went to the annual trade show. I met some people behind the scenes at Comfort Colors, and I'm like, what just happened over there? And they were like, All I know is Sorority Girls can change the world, because they single-handedly took this almost unheard of brand of t-shirts and skyrocketed it to $100 million, 10 times their previous net worth. So I talk about that every time I go speak to a school. I'm like, frame the picture of, look at your incredible trend-setting power. Now, first of all, knowing that, realizing your trend-setting power, and how can we use that for good? So then I get all excited, like, imagine this trend-setting power taking a pair of earrings made by an artisan in a third world country. That's incredible. You guys could do amazing things. Imagine getting this man and woman power, taking a local low-income school and brushing up their garden. And sorority at Georgia Southern, actually, we kind of got this idea, and they did a service social. And they went to a local low-income school and they built garden beds. And they had several projects all around the city. And they went and painted over graffiti and helped with a pet adoption and sat with the elderly. It was like this huge service project throughout the city. And it was such a big deal that like the news came out and did stories about it. And, talk about changing the mantra of, oh, all they want to do is party. They were making a huge impact in that city. And I'm so proud to announce they're still doing this 3 years later, doing service projects every year, and they call it a service social. And just understanding that idea of truly the man and woman power that we have collectively, and being able to serve your community and then serve the city and then serve the world, like it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable once you get it going.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I talk about that power all the time. I mean, really, the fraternities and sororities, they really do control the social scene on many college campuses today. So when we start looking at some of the major problems that are out there, whether it be alcohol abuse or sexual assaults or hazing, what have you, I mean, these problems are not just confined to the fraternity and sorority system. I mean, we see this in athletics, we see this in the band, we see alcohol usage and drug usage all throughout college campuses.
Sure.
And so, I think we can really shift that narrative and just kind of flip it on its end and basically say, you know what? Actually, the fraternities and sororities are in the best position to make the biggest impact on college campuses today if we can learn how to leverage the leadership that's embedded within these organizations.
100% agree. And there's so much statistics on those Greek men and women who grow up to become leaders in their generation. And, that starts while you're 18 to 22 years old. And why not start now? And even looking back at history, there's so many great movements started by young people. Yeah. And I'm like, if you need a permission slip, let this be yours today. Like you can do great things right now. Like you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till you're ready. You can do it right now.
Start now. I love it. We should talk about your book too. It's called Sorority Girls Can Change the World, that you released in 2016. And in that book, you tell the story about your friend Elaine, who quit high school when she was 17. She was pregnant at the time. She was married to the man who gave her another child and then left her for drugs and other women. Elaine had no home, no car, no job, and really nobody to watch the kids either. But you were determined to help her become successful. So I'm just curious, what happened to Elaine and what did you learn from that story?
Yes, that was such an eye-opening experience for me. Number one, I've heard it said that it's not that the rich don't care about the poor, it's that they don't know the poor. And for me, that was just an eye-opening example of understanding what food stamps mean, understanding that getting a low-income job and working 40 hours a week, that exact amount of money makes you ineligible for food stamps. At least it was for her, which means she was short $500 a month that she was getting for not working. Like, it's just a very broken system. And how is she supposed to work if she doesn't have anyone to watch her kids? And there's so, like, if I were homeless tomorrow, I have an education, I have a driver's license, I have family who can help me out. She had none of those things. And it was just an uphill battle that I did not understand that she had to face. And so I'm an Enneagram 3. And if that means anything to you, I'm like all in. And I was like calling all hands on deck. I had a friend in town who owned a car dealership who helped her get a car. We had a friend in town who was a manager of an apartment complex that helped her get an apartment. So, I mean, we threw a housewarming party. I was like all hands on deck to help Elaine. But the frustrating thing is that I realized that I wanted a better life for her more than she did. And once she kind of got herself established, she stopped showing up for work. She stopped making those minimum payments on her car and just everything got taken away as soon as she got it set up. And I'm having a breakdown in the middle of our walk-in closet. Like, oh, can't you see how hard I'm working over here? I'm doing a good thing, God. But all of that brought me to doing what I'm doing today. Because if ever I've heard the voice of God, it was in that moment when he said, when did I ever ask you to do all of this stuff anyways? Go share your story with sorority women. That's what I've designed you to do. And that was like my moment when I was like, I gotcha. So I am so thankful for Elaine. She was a friend to me. She was never a project, but unfortunately she needed so much more than I could not give her. And through that painful experience, it was an eye-opening experience to me to serve where I'm equipped to serve. You know, we all have stories, we all have talents, we all have skills, whatever that might be. And we're not all made to do all the things. I was not made to do that, you know, for Elaine. I was thankfully, hopefully to help her, but that wasn't what I was designed to do. I was, however, designed to speak to sorority women, and I've never felt more sure I'm exactly where I need to be. I've had the opportunity to speak to over 60 colleges nationwide at this point, and it's just so fun and rewarding seeing these girls' light bulbs go off, hearing from girls sometimes years later, you spoke to my school at this time and you said something that made me, you know, take this life-changing decision, and it's just the best thing ever. I love it.
That's a great feeling. You know, once you reach that self-actualization point where you actually know that this is what God put you on this earth to do, it's just, it's an incredible moment. And I know what that feels like because I've got the same conviction about me, about Greek University and some of the speakers that we have, you know, just the right place at the right time, making a big impact on college campuses. And so I know that feeling, and I know how great that feels, that you're making a difference. I think that's incredible. But, you know, give us some examples. I mean, you talk about sorority women and their ability to change the world. I agree with you, but, you know, give our audience some examples on what you've seen in terms of sorority women making a global impact and literally changing lives.
Sure. Well, we talked about the whole crazy comfort colors example.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about that, I then frame, imagine what else you can do. So I talk about if you are a leader in your sorority, maybe you're on an executive board, so you have a budget, which is awesome, but that's a privilege and a responsibility. So with those dollars at your disposal, how can you best use those to make a greater good? So for example, something simple as you have to buy coffee for the next event. There's nothing wrong with going to Costco. I do that too. But what about a simple search? You know, coffee is a very corrupt industry. You can give farmers a fair wage by searching what is fair trade coffee. Simple thing, because you're buying in bulk for potentially 100, 200 guests. That's a huge coffee order that could potentially make a huge impact and pay farmers well by buying that way. If you're buying gifts for all of the new members, there's so many different gifts you might buy. Say you have a new member class of 30 women. Awesome. Why don't you buy them some earrings made by a person in Thailand? I love this company called Trades of Hope. They do make beautiful earrings, bracelets, and purses and stuff like that. There's so many great, you know, companies like this. But imagine if they got an order of 30 earrings. I mean, that's going to change lives. Like, nothing wrong with Target earrings. I like them too. But when you think about how you can make such a huge impact for that one artisan, I mean, I know the name and face of a girl in Thailand who makes these beautiful blue and white tassel earrings that could change some 80 pies lives because that's their colors.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, you know, that's just one example. And, you know, we talked about the service social, you know, getting all the man and woman power that you would take one social, one semester, and taking it to your community and being like, just ask the local nonprofits, hey, Tuesday, whatever this date, we have 3 hours and 20 girls that would love to come help your organization put us to work. Can we clean a closet? Can we paint a floor? Can we, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know any nonprofit that would be like, no. You know, I think that that's a wonderful way to just bless your community and make such a big difference. Yeah. So, I mean, I can go on, but those are just little examples. And I have a service social PDF that I created on my website to make this easy for you. Questions to ask. Be like, hey, you know, find you at so-and-so university. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to help. And just some talking points. I made it super easy on how to do that. But I just think that getting this collective idea of women and men, you know, coming to their community and making a difference, it could change the world. It could change the world and change the stigma on Greek row, if nothing else, for sure.
Totally. Yeah, those are some really great tips. And I tell you what, that's going to resonate with Gen Z, with college students today. So if you're talking about recruitment, which is right around the corner here now as we sit on August 11th, that's something that resonates with them to say, you know what, instead of going to Target and getting our earrings there, we're going to Thailand because this is how we're changing the world with the power that we have and with the resources that we have. And if I'm a college student and I hear that, I'm like, well, good for you. I'm making a difference by joining this organization. That sounds great. I'm in. So I love those tips. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. The other thing you talk about is dating. And I want to talk about this because, I see what it looks like today in terms of swiping left and swiping right. And I'm just like, oh my God, this can't be healthy for college students. I mean, it really can't be. I know it's not. It can't be good for them. So how can sorority women set a higher standard in terms of their dating life?
Oh, this is my favorite topic. So when I usually speak to a sorority, I talk about I call it the $100 million power of influence, how you can make a difference in your community. And then why in the world would you settle for less if you have this incredible power? And yes, I'm all about changing the dating world. So there's so many different things to unpack, but I talk about if you have $100 million power of influence over the marketplace, then why don't you look at yourself in the mirror with a little more self-worth? So I talk about, what are some non-negotiables to you? I've never met a girl who says, I'm really looking for a porn-addicted college dropout who cusses at his mama. But I meet girls who date these guys because they don't have a plan, they don't have standards, they don't have non-negotiables. And so I say, what matters to you in a dating relationship, and write it down. And the cool thing, and I wonder if I'm sure you probably agree, is if women stop settling, men rise up. Men are not like bad people. They want to romance. Like that's what all of our romantic movies and what all of our romantic songs are about. Both men and women want this. And I don't know if it's movies or whatever it is, we've made this whole like like you said, swipe left and swipe right and cheapen this beautiful idea of romance and dating and getting to know each other to just who you are as a physical body. No, like there's so much more to you. And if we stop cheapening this idea and elevate the way we see each other, especially as leaders on the campus, especially as trendsetters, I mean, that's some world changing topics right there as well. And treating each other with respect, if nothing else, because you're so much more than just your bodies. And I have a lot to say about hookup culture as well, but that's to get to the point for that.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree with you. I mean, the swiping left and right, I mean, that's just on physical attributes. Let's just call it what it is. Instead, like you said, just have a list of non-negotiables. Maybe we can get on a FaceTime or, some kind of video call with this potential suitor and have a conversation about these non-negotiables. And then I'm not even going to go out with you if you're not meeting my expectation. Period. End of story. Like, why should I waste my time? You clearly have violated one of the non-negotiables, so I'm done here. You know what I mean? Done. Next. Yes. And so I think that is really kind of the future of dating. And so I see what happens today and all the stress that we put on, the physical appearance and everything else. And it's just so wrong. You're not going to find a life partner by making decisions based on physical attributes. I can promise you.
Absolutely. And beauty is fleeting, I mean, like, I hope that when I'm 60, that my husband loves me for everything I am, not just the swipe left or right. That's just so, yes.
Yeah, 100% agree. One of the other things that you talk about too, you have this quote and you say, when you have the support of your sisters, you never fall. I love that. How can sisters better support each other and their dreams?
Yes. So I got that from my daughters were on a rock wall. So when we first moved to Chattanooga, we did a little rock wall at Rock City, which is a Chattanooga, tour spot. But basically our daughter spots a rock wall. It says, if you climb to the top and ring the bell, your second climb is free. And before we could even say no, she's already negotiating with the attendant. If I climb to the top and ring the bell, can my sister climb for free? And we're like, well, that's a sweet gesture. So now we have to say yes, right? So, the money comes out and the harness goes on. And our youngest daughter, she's just more athletic and fearless. And so she beboppity boos all the way to the top of that rock wall and rings the bell. And then it's big sister's turn. And she would rather be doing anything than doing anything that requires sweating. Like she was not interested in this whatsoever, but she hesitantly gets the harness on and she's like, attempts a few and falls, attempts a few and falls. And we were content to be like, thank you for the fun. But the attendant was like, there's no one in line. Let her have a few more shots. So we're like, all right, there she goes. And then something kind of interesting started to happen. Our youngest daughter starts to kind of coach her up the wall, like, Hannah, I can see what you can't see. I want you to put your right hand here, put your left hand here. I got you. I'm not going to let you fall. And it was like, she got a little higher and a little higher. And she's like, left hand here, right hand there. I can see what you can't see. Just trust me. I'm not going to let you fall. And through that coaching, she made it all the way up and rang the bell. And everyone, comes down and erupts in this whole thing of cheering. And in that moment, I was like, that is sisterhood. That is, are you sure I can be a nurse because I'm scared to death right now and chemistry homework is hard? Are you sure that I, can date this guy because he is stressing me out? Or girlfriend, no, give me your phone. I need to block his number. Girlfriend, you cannot go out. You need to, I'm cutting you off. No more crowns and cokes tonight. This is a type of sisterhood who says, I see the best in you and I will not let you fall. I know that you were meant to be a nurse. I know that you were meant to do hard things. I see in you what you can't see in yourself. Just trust me. And sometimes we're the sister on the wall who's scared to death and saying, please help me. And sometimes we're one on the floor saying, I got you. I'm not going to let you fall. And so together, as we support each other, I just think that what sisterhood is a perfect little example right there on that rock wall.
Yeah, perfect example. I've seen it a million times in fraternity life as well. I've seen it even in my own life. I mean, when a member of the board of directors in my fraternity, looks at me over dinner and basically says, you're going to be the next executive director of the fraternity. I mean, I looked at him and I was like, you must have the wrong person. I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so I'm not sure what it is that you see. And, but sure enough, I mean, I think, he was able to let me see the things that I couldn't see. And it was his belief in me that made me believe that I could do what is ordinarily the impossible for 1 in 100,000 members, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is true on a chapter level as well. I think the leaders in our fraternities and sororities really need to do an inventory of the members that they have and start thinking ahead about who's going to be the next chapter president, who's going to be the next chapter treasurer, and say to them, I see you as the next treasurer of our organization because of the following characteristics that I see, right? And so start listing those things. And I think that empowers people to do things that ordinarily they would never even dream of. So,
Yes, 100%. And so many stories people look back and say, because so-and-so told me I could, and that's so powerful.
It is very, very empowering. Let's talk about your podcast too. It's called Truth for Your 20s Podcast. What kind of discussions are you having on that particular show?
All the things I wish I knew when I was 20. Yes. So most of our listeners are college age-ish, but yeah, Truth for Your 20s. We talk about dating, we talk about sex, we talk about, learning how to live on your own, budgeting. We just had one talking about wellness and breath exercises. We talk about all the good stuff. I just love it. It's been one of my favorite platforms and the numbers have grown lately. I'm just so thankful for the conversations. Usually I do interview style. Sometimes I do mentoring with young women. So we do all kinds of different stuff, but yeah, Truth for Your 20s. That's what it's called.
That's beautiful. You mentioned the mentoring as well. What types of things do you talk about in a mentoring session?
Yes. So I do online mentoring and that is also so fun, but it depends. I say, what do you hope to accomplish in this call? It's almost always about dating, which is fine because I love talking about that. But, it's all over the place. Sometimes it's I'm in a relationship, but I want to make sure that this is healthy. So here's A, B, and C. Can you help, say, is this okay? Is this not okay? What do you see from an outsider looking in? I always say, it's so nice just to have an unbiased third party. I don't know who he is. I don't know the friends. I don't know who's involved. I know what you're telling me. And I can hopefully glean a lot from, this conversation and just that outsider looking in to this conversation and give you a little fresh eyes to what's going on. But we talk a lot about dating, talk about, I had a conversation recently with a girl who was single and never really had a serious relationship and just couldn't figure out, why she wasn't putting herself out there. And I just challenged her, okay, here are 3 things you can do this week to strike up a conversation with a stranger. And, she had a healthy past. She had done a lot to work on herself, but she just wasn't putting herself out there. And it turns out a good guy is not going to land on your doorstep from a parachute. So you have to, put yourself out there. And so it just depends on the girl and the conversation. But I have done mentoring for a long time in person. Everything really, I started doing just started with coffee dates. My husband was a youth pastor when we first got married, and then started doing, as I was an advisor at Georgia Southern, started doing mentoring with the young women there. And yeah, just kind of grown from there. But now I do that virtually, and it's so fun to meet people from all over and help them figure out all the things that I wish I knew when I was younger, essentially. Yeah.
That's great. I know Gen Z is very hungry for mentorship. And I think that's one of the reasons why they get involved with fraternity and sororities. They get that exposure to fraternity and sorority leaders, advisors, and other people that they can lean on and just ask questions when they don't know which way to go. And many times they have that FOMO out there, that fear of missing out. And so just checking in with somebody else and saying, am I really on the right track here?
Yeah.
Is very, very helpful for today's students.
Yeah, that's a good point about Greek life, being able to have that mentorship, because hopefully there is a trusted advisor involved with your sorority. And what a great way, if you're away from home in your college town and don't know any, quote, grown-ups, that's a great way to get connected.
I agree completely. You also love yoga. You love guacamole. I mean, who doesn't? And Jesus, not necessarily in that order. And I know for you and your husband, I mean, your faith in God is very, very important to both of you. So talk to us a little bit more about that. And how does that manifest itself in terms of what you do every single day?
Yeah. So when I speak to colleges, I feel like everything's based in what I believe is the biblical truth. But, I don't have any kind of Bible study or whatever when I go speak to colleges, but when I do online mentoring or I have online courses and stuff, I'm definitely more open and front about faith and about, having a relationship with Jesus. And so a lot of my followers appreciate that and are looking for how to grow in their faith. And so, yeah, I mean, I just try and be who I am always and never hide who I am. And I like to just be truthful about what in my story personally, like I said, I was the girl looking for love in all the wrong frat boys. And actually through a Greek Bible study is how I heard about Jesus. I knew the Jesus of Sunday school and, wasn't really involved in church or anything like that. And didn't really know how that had any kind of application to my life, and was kind of left that for when I became a grandma, I would become a Christian was my mentality. But, after breakup after breakup and heartbreak after heartbreak, I was like, this is just, I can't do this on my own. I'm doing something wrong. I'm missing something. And through a Greek Bible study, I heard actually the woman at the well story. That's in John chapter 4. And essentially it's a heartbroken girl. She was a heartbroken girl. And I related with this ancient woman, and the God of the universe met her there. And the Katie paraphrase version is, you're trying to fill your cup with men, and that is never going to fulfill you. You're asking another sinful and flawed human being to complete you. That's untrue and unfair. I'm the only person that can complete you. And that was my aha moment that changed my life. And the next guy I dated was my husband. So that worked out well. And I, became a whole person complete in Christ. And then I was able to be complimented, not completed, but complimented by an earthly husband. And it's worked out for 17 years. We just celebrated 17 years, and we have 2 beautiful daughters. So yes.
That's wonderful. I love how you just placed everything and made it complete for us. I think that's fantastic. Now, we do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, and I happen to be down the road in Franklin, Tennessee, so not too far away from your place in Chattanooga. So what's your favorite restaurant in town? So that way the next time I go, I can go visit your place.
Oh my goodness. Oh, my head is swimming with ideas. We have a coffee shop I really love called Mean Mug. Do y'all have those in Nashville?
No, I haven't seen any of those.
Mean Mug. It's delicious, has all the fancy coffees. And we just went to, well, I would say El Cactus. El Cactus Mexican it's so good. There is a tortilla soup that's amazing. And of course their guacamole. Their guacamole is good stuff.
I love that. That's a great recommendation, because I haven't found a really good Mexican spot here in Franklin, Brentwood area. I'm sure if I ventured out to Nashville, I could probably find something. But I just came back from Austin, Texas, and that is real Mexican food.
Yes.
I mean, I was so happy all weekend. I was like, now I'm going to get my fill, and that'll be enough for whatever, for the next 6 months.
Oh man, I don't think I could ever get tired. I probably could, but it'd be hard. It'd be hard.
I totally agree. All right. So for all the students who are listening right now, how can they go and connect with you? How can they bring you in as a speaker on their campus? Where should they go?
Yes, thank you. I made it easy. My website is called katiebulmer.life. My last name is like Fulmer with a B. So katiebulmer.life. And that's how you can find me on my two favorite platforms, Instagram and TikTok, Katie Bulmer Life. My DMs are always open. So there is a form on my website if you want me as a speaker. But if it's easier for you, you can certainly reach out via DM as well.
That sounds great. So it's Katie, and the last name is BULMER.life. Go and check that out. She's got all kinds of resources on the website, so definitely go and visit. And what can I say? It's been a pleasure talking with you today. I'm so happy that we had a chance to meet up and chat for a few minutes. So I can't wait to see you on stages all across the country. I'm sure I'm going to see you somewhere down the road real soon.
Yes, we have so many things in common. Well, nice to meet you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was so much fun. And to our listeners, if you like this interview with Katie, please like it on social media. Please share it with your sorority sisters, with your fraternity brothers. And we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.